Fear is something we all deal with as humans, and it all starts at that young age when we are more aware of how fragile life really is. But as we grow up, we tend to continue to carry these fears with us, or they could tend to morph into new fears. This is my story on how this one day I killed fear, and it taught me the ultimate lesson of getting back on that horse before the horse runs away. It was years ago. I headed up to Sacramento to race my motorcycle at an off-road event. I was in at the amateur ranks, and like most or even all motorcycle racers, I always had the fear of getting badly hurt. I think we all have had some kind of fear in the back of our heads that sits there, and it lingers. It's a big what if. And the really good racers tend to block it out, or so they think they're blocking it out. But it never goes away. It's always in the back of all of our heads, whether we're motorcycle racers or not. 8 a.m. and it was 30 minutes practice before my race at 9 a.m. I was running behind and I was throwing my gear on. I jumped on my bike and my wife yells that I forgot my goggles. As she's running up, hands me my goggles. My daughter, in the distance, playing in her playpen off to the side, got down to the course just in time and began my first lap around the course. I remember coming up to a small mound that was built up of medium-sized, large-sized boulders. So it was nothing out of the ordinary. I approached it with the same normal skill set one would use. So I lofted the bike up and over the mound, and as I came over, everything went into slow motion as I watched my front wheel of my motorcycle go right into a small pothole. But because it was in slow motion, my mind measured all the dimensions, the entire situation in one shot. And in that very same moment, I realized this was not gonna be good. As the bike was starting to endo, the fear that was sitting in the back of my head was starting to be engulfed and was screaming at me in full blooming effect. Like this was the feeding. It was what it needed. It was totally out of control, and this situation made it come alive like never before. The bike continued to endo, and I tried to jump off the bike and get out of the bike's way, but it was just too fast of one movement. As I hit the ground on my hands and knees, immediately I felt the entire bike pile drive me face first in a combination of boulders and dirt, smashing the front of my helmet into my face, cutting my face up pretty bad. All the thoughts and the voices of people telling me racing is dangerous, to now I'm going to be in a wheelchair, to watching my older brother earlier on in life when I was a little kid smash his front face racing only to just retire and never do it again. All these stories were there in one swift movement as I laid there asking God, please don't let me be paralyzed. As I laid there, immediately trying to move my fingers and legs, and they did. So still in shock, I got up, rode back to the pits with a scared emotion that I was done. I was done with all this, questioning the last 4 years of me racing, just enjoying motorcycling before then, but then all of a sudden I wanted to start racing, and why? The fear and remorse and all the emotion was just turmoil and really overwhelming for me. I pulled into my spot, and next to me was my friend Bobby Garrison, who was a pro at the time and a fast one at that. That's another video. And as I stood there walking in circles, he walked up to me. He's like, hey, are you okay? And not saying nothing, just looking at him with a certain look on my face. And I remember, I don't even know, I started to tell him what happened, but I just stopped and I just told him I'm done. I just put my helmet on my bike and I was done. I was gonna stop racing. And at that moment, he walked away, went back to his truck, and then he came back to me. I was sitting there just trying to push all that fear back where it came from, just put it back in the back of my head. And he walked up to me and he goes, "You gonna go back out?" And I said, absolutely not. I go, I'm just glad I'm like standing here. And he goes, you're fine. I go, nah, and then I kind of started to get embarrassed, like really? I wasn't gonna go back out there? And he goes, I think you need to go back out there. And it was at that moment, I looked him right in the eye, and he didn't have to say anything else after that. But it was crazy. What his eyes were telling me was, I've been here before, and you need to go out there. I remember just kind of like looking away from him, and I knew what he was trying to tell me, is I had to go back out there and I had to face that fear. And if I didn't, it was gonna be stuck with me forever and probably ruin other things in my life that were gonna come, along with it. And I remember this specific moment when I said, I don't have a helmet, my helmet's, and as I was trying to finish that sentence, he handed his helmet to me. And as he handed it to me and I grabbed it, he just had this look that was like full of encouragement, that I had to go back out there and I had to face that fear. So I buttoned his helmet up, and as I rode back down to practice, and as I got on the track, it was maybe within 5-10 minutes, all that fear that was there not only went away, but it was almost like I killed it. It went away for good. It really affected my life. I really drove home that 7-8 hours driving home, like really trying to work through that whole lesson. I talked to Bobby about it after, and he basically said, as a pro racer or as a pro motorcycle racer, you have not only instances like I had, you have them a few times, and you learn that running away is not the way to deal with them. You have to face them full on. So to this day, I always go back and I think about that time I had at the track there and how Bobby affected me and gave me that encouragement. That doesn't say that you kill fear forever. We're human beings and fear is always gonna be there in something, but I can remember just times after that, dealing with certain things or trying new things, or whether it's business or you're scared of heights or whatever, that thing that paralyzes you, the only way to deal with those things is to face them straight on, and that's hard to do sometimes. But I'm glad I had that situation in my life to show me on that is the way to deal with those fears that are hidden in the back of all of our heads. Did you have a situation like this where fear paralyzed you from continuing enjoyable things in your life? Let me know in the comments below what experiences you've had. If you've liked this video, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next ride.